Hello and welcome to another edition of Principal's Corner. This is November 7th, 2019. Fall is gone, autumn is here, and winter is coming. As the fall season ends in regards to our sports activities, there's a whole variety of things that are happening, not only here at Jesse Bethel, but all over the Vallejo City Unified School District. Today, I'm very excited to share with all of you one of my guests and the new principal at Vallejo High School, Mr. soon-to-be Dr. Jarrod Bordi. Mr. Bordi, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm well. We're in the middle of the week and I'm tired.
Well, how about telling me a little bit about yourself to start off with?
Sure. So a little bit about me. So I grew up in San Leandro. Went to college, undergraduate in Chicago. Finished my master's through Chapman, through the Irvine location, and then I'm working on my doctorate at the University of Southern California.
Wow.
Started out really as an athletic background, playing baseball, playing a high-level baseball for Team USA, and receiving a Division I scholarship. Started out in education, really coaching. Started coaching first, teaching physical education, then went into counseling. And then went into administration. So it's kind of me, quick little synopsis.
Wow. What schools were you at? What districts and schools were you at?
So I started out in San Lorenzo Unified. So what originally happened was I played baseball and was trying out with the Milwaukee Brewers and had an arm injury. And then came back home to where I grew up in San Lorenzo because my mom worked in schools in San Lorenzo Unified. Mm-hmm. So I started out there kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And really, my first thought was, well, I want to give back and I want to coach. And that's what led me into education and into teaching. So I started teaching physical education in San Lorenzo Unified, going into physical education in math and science, 6th grade, but really the bulk of my teaching was in physical education. And then I went into Berkeley Unified, doing intervention work. And Berkeley High School is very large. It's like very similar to James Logan, 3,800 kids. And I worked with the most at-risk kids in Berkeley. And then from there, went down to Central California and was a dean for all of alternative education, and again, working with the most at-risk kids. Mm-hmm. Then I moved over to the comprehensive side as an assistant principal. And then I went over to Mount Diablo, and I was a student services coordinator. And then in Antioch, I was the principal of my own small school in Antioch Unified at Antioch High School.
Wow, yeah. Great. Other than baseball, is there any other sports that you play or you currently keep up with?
You know what, I played basketball. I was pretty quick. I was a point guard, so I could drive and dish pretty well. But in high school, I went to, I started out at St. Joseph's Notre Dame High School, which is where Jason Kidd went. So when I was a kid growing up, and for basketball, it was Jason Kidd. So my family ended up making some accommodations and working with the coaches. But back then with Coach Frank Laporte, either you were basketball or nothing. Oh, yeah, so what I mean by that is I wanted to play baseball and basketball. So I ended up I transferred to Moreau, ended up playing basketball and baseball.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's pretty exciting. So what got you here to Vallejo, from Antioch all the way here to Vallejo? So
for me, it's really friendships growing up. So I was able to play with CeCe Sabathia, and I was able to play with Joey Thurston and David Bernstein, who were professional baseball players. Yeah. So my first call and networking was through Joey and through David, and just talking to them about the community. And then really drilling down and looking at what the schools do and what the school district emphasizes. It's really my strength with project-based learning as it relates to CT pathways. And
what's CT pathways?
Just CT pathways as it relates to district-wide.
Career tech?
Career technical education.
Sorry, yeah, okay, thank you.
So coming and working with really pathways throughout my entire career. Really, Berkeley High School was the first wall-to-wall small learning community high school in Northern California. I'm fairly certain. And then going into linked learning districts like Porterville Unified, which was really development of wall-to-wall small learning community pathways, that's where really my strengths lie in developing pathways and CT type learning environments. So with coming over and looking at the structure of Vallejo, they're really embedded it with deep work with CT pathways and really making kids college and career ready. And I think that term is used very loosely, but really I define it as kids should be enrolled in college level classes where if they choose, they'll be eligible to go to college. But if not, the school needs to develop career-based type programs where kids can receive certifications and they can receive foundational type work so they can go into career and have some sort of expertise or foundational type of approach if they choose to go into a career. So those are always things I've really heavily believed in, along with work-based learning, and industry partnerships. But really what sold me was the superintendent, because I was able to work with Dr. Clark. I believe in Dr. Clark's vision. I believe with him coming into Vallejo Unified, that's a plus. So in working with Dr. Clark and Antioch Unified, I was able to speak with him. I was able to work directly with him. And I'm a big proponent of strong leadership. So really that's what really sold me, what was Dr. Clark and the structures and systems that are established within the high schools. And really for me, working primarily in high schools, that's really my foundation, with 12 years as an administrator and principal, and then teaching in the high school level. High school for me was where it's at. Yeah.
So did you get to your 100th day yet, or you're about 90 something?
Yeah, so I always bring these initiatives and in talking with folks and kind of taking a step back, I think I'm like, wow, I'm really in my 90 days. So I'm approaching 90 to 100, I'm right around there. So in reflecting kind of in meetings and moving initiatives forward and developing structures and systems, it's about 90 to 100 days. So it's exciting. We have a great school, a very cohesive group that's really committed to working together. And I think that's a foundational piece that may or may not be welcoming, as a new principal at a high school. So for me, the staff is very receptive. It's being really transparent and open and honest, and just talking with our staff about the vision of really establishing those structures of academies and pathways at our school.
Wow, that's great to hear. Now, being there for over 3 months now, and actually sometimes it feels like 3 years or 30 to that extent, but I think one of the things I really wanted to ask you was that now that you've been here, has your view of Vallejo changed, and has it changed in regards to your vision or what you're planning to do with the school?
So coming in, having the school with the foundation and the bones of a wall-to-wall small learning community high school, teachers and staff were very receptive and interested in building pathways and academies. So that was very positive. So for me, leveraging supports on how are we going to move forward CT pathways, really my vision is how are we going to set up a system of having teachers work together in small learning communities with common planning time to talk about curriculum and talk about student support services. One of the things I thought of first was project-based learning, because when you look at assessment with 20th century schools, when I was in school, kids in CT pathways, if you were a student that was interested in career tech education, you were somebody that was bused into Hayward, because I grew up in San Leandro. You were bused to the ROP, and really the type of stigma was, well, those kids aren't going to go to college. So for me, it's with 20th century, and what I've really valued is CT pathways are now heavily connected to rigorous, relevant, and engaging curriculum that really brings it as a whole. So for me, project-based learning as a means for assessment, if you're a student that can articulate, that can work with your hands, and that can demonstrate mastery of standards in a variety of ways, that's really where it's at. And going into a CT pathway class, and then going into an algebra class or a math class, and then an English class, and having that inquiry-based question posed in a different way with a specific content focus, I think really brings relevance. So I'm a big supporter of project-based learning and equity. And what I've seen in working at Antioch High School, when Antioch High School when I first came on, it was a disconnected high school where kids would fall through the cracks. So with developing a wall-to-wall structure or having kids work in a pathway where they're interested in, the graduation rate was at 86%, and 2 years ago the graduation rate was 97%.
Wow.
Yeah, and then attendance went up from 88 to 96. So it just is a testament to when you break the school down to smaller pieces and you connect adults to kids in small learning communities, it makes it very relevant and engaging and meaningful. So those are the type of beliefs that I have with education. Bringing forth culturally relevant instruction and how that looks in different classrooms. Vallejo High School is going to partner with Facing Histories within ourselves to really do equity walks and take a look at culturally relevant instruction, and really work with the administrative team to really look at culturally relevant instruction as it relates to race, as it relates to ethnicity, and what that looks like in the form of a classroom. So another piece at Vallejo High Schools, we have 50% of our kids Hispanic. We have about 17% English language learners. We probably have approximately 50 kids that are new to the country that don't speak any English, whether it's French, whether it's Spanish, whether it's Tagalog. And as principal, it's really taking a look at kids that aren't able to access language, and as a principal, to set up structures so they can bridge language. So for me, I found it very important in being Mexicano and being first in my family to go to college. I felt the language piece was very important. So I was able to work with the district to have 2 bilingual instructional support providers work with kids in Spanish, Tagalog, and we're working with other languages to really work with kids in classrooms so they can break down language and really work in high-level classes to go on to college.
That's very exciting, Mr. Bordi. I think not only that work that you're doing, but can you tell us a little bit more about what are the extracurricular activities, some of the other functions that are happening at Vallejo from your perception now that you've been there for a little bit?
We have so Vallejo High School in seeking information and developing relationships with staff and community members. I was shocked to hear that Vallejo High School is one of the oldest schools in California. So with that, there's a deep tradition. So what I like in working in old high schools is you have folks that graduated there, you have folks that teach there, you have folks that work in classified that are heavily committed and invested. So with our athletic programs, there's a lot of support around athletics, basketball season starting, soccer season starting, and there's a lot of excitement, I feel, with a new principal, new programs, new initiatives, and just the really fulfillment of a high school type of experience, I think is really magnified at Vallejo High School.
Well, that seems really exciting. Can you tell us so many of the upcoming events that maybe your community in the Vallejo area wants to know about? And if you could just tell the group.
Sure. Basketball season starting, we're going to have a real competitive athletic program, specifically girls and boys basketball. Soccer they're always competing for the championship. We have Thanksgiving break coming up. But that's still a time to continue to study and get ready for finals. But as you look at in November, I mean, the first semester is winding down, and the importance of those semester grades are really coming up. So within the community, in a sense, where athletic programs are coming up, the first semester is drawing to a close, and it's really almost thinking about really in January next semester. So it's an exciting time where we're in the middle of, in the middle of the semester. So it's really a time of almost transition.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bordi. One one of the things that we have here at Jesse Bethel is the check-in before break. That happens on November 13th, next Wednesday, from 6 to 8 p.m. It's our version of parent conferences. The idea is that you actually, a parent comes in, picks up their first quarter report card, and if they're happy with it, they go. If they have some questions about certain grades, they actually could go into the gym or student unit or small gym where teachers are, and they could talk to them, specifically have approximately a 3 to 5 minute conversation to check on their students' grades, their child's grades. I think it's a real powerful thing. It really kind of focuses on what Dr. Clark talks about, parent engagement. It's giving them an avenue and opportunity for not only to be engaged, but to communicate with their teachers. Hopefully something you can visit or something you can consider doing over at Vallejo High School. It's in our infancy stage at our school, so we definitely love for some people to come down and take a look at it and see how we do it and give us some advice, because I think it's a real big opportunity for us. We too have basketball, wrestling, and soccer. I think we competed with Vallejo. Vallejo is a pretty tough team in soccer, and I think we split some of the games in basketball. So it's going to be really exciting to see the winter sports come around. The lucky thing for Jesse Bethel is we're the defending champions, so I'm pretty sure Vallejo is probably looking to try and knock us down, and I think that's going to be a great game to watch. So we'll have some really exciting times this winter season. Anything else that's going on there at Vallejo that we need to know about?
There's always things going on at a large comprehensive high school.
Yeah.
So with about 1,500 kids, things are going on every day.
Yeah.
I think with us is with our academies, we have advisory boards and advisory partners. So we're really working to establish internships for kids. And there's a heavy emphasis with that, because I was just at an advisory board meeting for the Biotechnology Academy. And there's just a lot of great things that are connecting the community to kids and work. So that's always developing. It's just a matter of, the after-school program, where we have a robust after-school tutoring type program where, kids can go get help from credentialed teachers that are on staff. I think that goes a long way, and the numbers keep increasing. So for us, it's also establishing interventions after school, especially, again, as I've emphasized that we're drawing a close, to this first semester. We still got time, but making sure kids have access to help, is always very important. So those are some of the things that, right off the top of my head, that are going on at Vallejo High School. But again, in a large comprehensive high school, there's always things going on.
Yeah, sometimes high schools never sleep when it comes to a comprehensive high school, and sometimes we feel like we're on call 24/7. But I wanted to thank you very much for coming. Even though you are a Trojans fan, the record's 5-4 right now. It's pretty tough for you guys because you're used to having a bigger winning record than that.
That's true.
Being a Cal grad myself, we're just happy we're 4-4, but we could always do better, and we'll be playing you guys in a few weeks. I think it's like right after Thanksgiving or that Thanksgiving break.
I think that's true.
That's going to be exciting. But that's it for now. We'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Principal's Corner. We hope that you come check us out next month, and maybe we could get Mr. Bordi to actually facilitate the next Principal's Corner with somebody else. Other than that, you have a great time, and I want to say thank you very much, Mr. Bordi, for coming in.
Thank you.
And that's it for now, and you guys have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving break coming up. Thank you.